What's up, everyone? Welcome to Simulation. And now we're going to be talking about thoughts on Donald Trump. Seems to be a lot that's going on with Trump. There has been a lot that's been going on. Actually, over the last couple of decades, there's been a lot going on with Trump. But most specifically, I think what's interesting is who he is, because we don't quite know exactly who he is, but he sure has a character and a personality that is so much different than every single president that we've ever seen before. Now, is this good in the long run? Is this bad in the long run? Who knows? But what's really interesting as we dive deeper into what has been done is this idea of nationalism. Many people take that thought of nationalism and they immediately take themselves back and they're like, whoa, you know, I'm very global, I have a very big, I don't want borders, I don't want ego, I want us to all work together across the planet. A lot of people do, right? But a lot of people also want to take the time getting to globalization, getting to the we are one mentality by making sure that the United States actually thrives as a democracy along the way. Because something that could be true is that maybe this short-term nationalism is actually good for the long-term democratic rule. If the United States was to open up its borders more freely, if the United States was to take all the trade deals that it possibly could, even if they weren't in the favor of the United States, if the United States economy was to do things like provide a lot of health care and a lot of education and a lot of these basic needs that people need, would people be more creative? Would people be as innovative? Would they go and hustle as much? All these different questions, and how much would that throttle away from our military budget, making sure that we can keep that democracy? There's all of these questions that go into this puzzle. I don't have answers, just talking about it as a stream of consciousness. And so I've learned from people, lots of people that are geopolitical figures, that are geoeconomists, people that are studying the way that goods and commodities are flowing across the planet, as well as the way that democracy flows across the planet, that maybe it's true that Trump, being the bull in the china shop and moving around all this incumbent goop that's on the top of the swamp, was actually, interestingly enough, good for the United States. And so maybe this short-term nationalism, maybe there's something to do with the United States grouping itself together, saying, hey, borders are going to be closed off more tight for a bit. We need to figure our stuff out domestically. We need to maximize our research projects into artificial intelligence, into space, and into understanding these different sciences, how they're applying to our lives, decentralization, all these interesting things. We need to make stricter deals across borders with Europe, stricter deals with Asia, stricter deals in general, be able to do things like go and try and get some peace with North Korea, all this different stuff that's going on, more peace in the Middle East, try and figure out how to do this. And along the way, maybe that will help us become the world's leading democracy and continue as the world's strongest economy. I always like to remind people that it was actually not that long ago that women didn't have the right to vote, black people were slaves, Jews were being annihilated in Europe, that all these different genocides happening across the planet, there are still some that have just occurred a couple dozen years ago. So we're actually not that civilized quite yet, even though over time we have gotten more civilized. It's so important to understand that the United States as the leading economy and democracy could be overthrown before you know it by doing things like having people become a little more complacent and not be so concerned about funding the military. All of a sudden, another military power comes in and is like, give us your land, give us your territory, give us your freedom, we're going to be in control. So this is all very important things to take into account as we look at the great picture of the Earth. Recently, we learned that the Roaring Forties is a massive strip. Roaring 40s, massive strip around the 40th parallel it's a line of latitude, 40th line of latitude parallel, right here on the southern part of the Earth. And the Roaring 40s have about 17 to 27 mile an hour winds. And the reason why I say this is because it only takes 40 days, 40 days to sail around the Earth. 40 days to sail around the Earth. The Earth is actually a fairly small place. And so in that regard, there's only one rock. There's only one human experiment going on. So in order to retain it with as much democracy and freedom as possible over time and make sure you retain it, especially as we move into the artificial intelligence age and the exponential technology age, is really important. So maybe Donald is doing some things right. And maybe it's important to be a little bit more open-minded. As a scout, Julia Galef was, interestingly enough, teaching us about the importance of being a scout instead of a warrior. Warriors are typically the ones that say, I'm right and you're wrong, I'm fighting for my perspective, which is a lot of the right and left political gridlock. The scout, on the other hand, is able to be an independent, observe what's going on the right, observe what's going on the left, and remain neutral and equanimous, observing these different perspectives, and saying things like, hey, let's have this multivariate conversation. This is not about me being right. If you say something and it's backed up by facts and evidence, I'm going to say I was wrong and I'm going to take what you say and we're going to move on with it. And that's a whole different mentality to have, and it's important to be open-minded as we move into there. So just consider it as food for thought, what's going on in this 2018 election cycle and 2020 election cycle. Maybe there are some good things going on for the economy and for the world in the long run with what's going on with Trump. Maybe there are some good things. Just keep it as food for thought. Are there also some bad things? Likely yes. We can also highlight and identify those as well. And so that's where the multivariate conversation comes in. Thanks for tuning in for this quick session on thoughts on Donald Trump. We'll be coming back with you more like this soon. Go share what you learned with 2 people. Have them go share with 2 people. Let's start spreading this message around. Have the multivariate conversation about both the good and the bad, what's going on with our geopolitics and geoeconomics. Much love, everyone.